Hello and welcome to Larissa's Kitchen. Chocolate cakes are delicious, but you don't need to rely on a boxed cake mix or a bakery cake to satisfy your cravings. Today I'm making a moist chocolate cake from scratch that you can make yourself. No special cooking techniques are required. Before we worry about any of these ingredients, we have to take care of a few things first. I've got the oven preheating to 350 degrees. Now I do not have the convection oven on because this cake bakes best without the convection oven. I have these cake shields soaking in a little bit of water. Now these help the cake to cook evenly up so that we don't have the center rise and the sides slope down. We just need to let these soak while we're preparing everything. I also want my cake to come out perfectly even, so I've got this 10-inch piece of parchment paper that I'm going to put in the bottom of my 10 by 3-inch cake pan. Now I'm just going to give this a spritz with a non-stick cooking spray, put in the sheet, and then I'm going to spray everything again. We're eventually going to need a half cup of cold espresso, so I'm going to put that together first. I've got a half cup of hot water and I'm going to use a teaspoon of instant espresso crystals. Now if you make your own espresso, go ahead and use that. It just needs to be cooled down first. Most cake ingredients have you using a creaming method. That's where you would put together your fats and sugars and cream them until they're light and fluffy, and eventually add in the rest of your liquid ingredients. Finally, you'd add in the flour so that you're working with it the least. We're not going to be doing that. We're going to be doing a dry ingredients incorporation. We'll cut in our fats and our oil, then we'll eventually add in the rest of our liquid ingredients. First though, we need to pulverize 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. Okay, we're pulverizing this salt because kosher salt crystals can be kind of large and they might make salty pockets in your batter. Aside from our 1/2 teaspoon of pulverized kosher salt, we're also going to need 2 cups of cake flour. This is unbleached and this is King Arthur brand, which I do like best, but you could use whichever brand you like. I've got 1 3/4 cups of white granulated sugar, 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and 3/4 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. We're just going to mix this all together in the mixing bowl. Okay, we're just going to mix this by hand first, just to combine. Next up, we're going to add 1/2 cup of very soft butter to these dry ingredients. Okay, I just incorporated this butter by hand. That's how soft it is. We're going to go ahead and put this on the mixer. With the mixer running on low, we're going to add 1/3 cup of canola oil. We're just going to mix this until this mixture resembles sand. Okay, that was about 30 seconds. I've got 1 cup of whole milk that I'm going to add my 1/2 cup of espresso and 1 teaspoon of vanilla to. We're going to mix that together and then we're going to add it all at once to the mixture. Okay, we're going to add this in and mix on low for 1 minute. Alright, this was 1 minute. We need to take it off and scrape the sides. Last, we've got 4 large eggs that we're going to add one at a time. We're going to put this on medium and we're going to completely beat to incorporate before we add the next egg. Okay, it's time to get the batter in the pan. This is why I like doing a single layer cake, because then I don't have to split my batter between the pans. Okay, I'm putting my cake shields on. Now I'm doing this so I can't see, so it's a little goofy, but each one of these is really only for a 1-inch cake pan, so we have to put both of them on there because we are doing a full 3-inch cake. So just get them as tight as you can, and I wrung them out. They don't have to be soaking wet, but they do need to be wet. Okay, and we want to make sure these stay below the lip of this cake pan. All right, let's take this over to the oven. We're going to bake this cake for 55 to 65 minutes. I'm going to check it at 55 minutes first because we definitely do not want to overbake this cake. Okay, the timer has gone off for the 55 minutes. Okay, this looks like it might be done. We're going to check it close to the center. And yes, that's come out clean. We don't want to overcook this, so let's take this out. Okay, we need to get this out of the pan as quickly as possible. So I'm just going around the edge here to loosen it. Okay, put this on top. All right, now we need to take this off. Okay, I'm going to let this cake cool for at least 2 hours on this rack. It needs to be completely cool before we either ice it, or I'm going to be wrapping it in plastic wrap and putting it in the freezer overnight. That way when I do go to ice it, I'll have significantly fewer crumbs. Alright, before we put this frosting together, we need to get our cake that's been in the freezer overnight out and on our cake plate. Now that's the one advantage to having a frozen cake, is it's fairly easy to handle. I'm going to be making a chocolate cream cheese frosting, and it only has 4 ingredients. 8 ounces of cream cheese at room temperature, a 1/4 cup of butter also at room temperature, 3 cups of powdered sugar, and a 1/2 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. Now I would not recommend using Hershey's in this, and in fact we use Ghirardelli in both the cake and the icing. So let's get started mixing our butter and our cream cheese together. Okay, that was about a minute on medium-high speed. We're just going to scrape this down a little bit. And then we're going to add the powdered sugar 1 cup at a time. Okay, scrape again. Okay, scrape down again. Our last cup of powdered sugar. Okay, we're going to scrape it down one more time and we're going to put in our half cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. Then we're going to let this mix on high until it becomes nice and fluffy. All right, this looks pretty good. That was about 2 minutes. We're going to dump all of this frosting on top and then smooth it out from there. Okay, and then I'm going to be using this offset spatula to ice this with. All right, so we start from the middle and push to the sides. All right, and then smooth off the top. Okay, you can clean up the cake plate where you have gotten a little bit of extra icing on it. You don't have to, this is just for show. We want to make sure this cake is completely thawed before we serve it, so give it at least an hour to completely thaw before you attempt to cut into it. I can't make any guarantees about how many people this cake will serve. I know I might eat the entire thing, so let's give it a taste. I love that frosting. This is perfect.